The whole thing is a fraud.
These are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on.
USAID, which is a CIA front, put $5 billion into funding those riots.
How much money went from USAID to the work at Wuhan?
Take away our dollars.
The lack of intelligence and the lack of expertise that Elon has.
The unfortunate nickname, Big Balls. Big Balls here.
The aforementioned Big Balls.
Is this like classified stuff? It sounds like you get in trouble.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. It has been a massive week in US politics with President Trump launching hand grenades left, right, and center. And one of the biggest stories to come out of it is Elon Musk doing exactly what Trump hired him to do and gutting federal bureaucracies, namely USAID. And what has been discovered so far is just the tip of the iceberg, but it is absolutely jaw-dropping. The amount of conspiracy theories, which we all kind of knew were true anyway, but that are just being blatantly confirmed, is astonishing. So guys, grab yourself a coffee or a beer, kick your feet up, and let's go through all of this. So first of all, let's have a look at what Trump's saying in terms of doubling down on the fact that he wants to essentially abolish USAID and calling the whole entire thing a fraud.
Is Time Magazine still in business? I didn't even know that. Elon is doing a great job. He's finding tremendous fraud and corruption and waste. You see it with the USAID, but you're going to see it even more so with other agencies and other parts of government. He's got a staff that's fantastic. He's wanted to be able to do this for a long time, and everybody else knew it was existent, but I think never so much when you look at USAID. That's a fraud. The whole thing is a fraud. Very little being put to good use. Every single line that I look at in terms of events and transactions is either corrupt or ridiculous. And we're going to be doing that throughout government. And I think we're going to be very close to balancing budgets for the first time in many years. I think we're going to be very close to, in addition to monies coming in from tariffs, et cetera, et cetera. But he's doing a very good job. I'm very happy with it.
Furthermore, footage has just come out of the USAID building being physically dismantled. Trump is also saying that there will be more agencies investigated.
If you look at what has just taken place with respect to some of the investments that have been made on another agency that people have been talking about for years, but nobody did anything about it, it's absolutely obscene, dangerous, bad, very costly. I mean, virtually every investment made is a con job. There's nothing of value to anybody unless there's a kickback scheme going on, which is possible. And we're going to be doing more and more of that. We're going to be looking at Department of Education. We're going to be looking at even our military. We're going to be looking at tremendous amounts of money, Peter, being spent on things that bear no relationship to anything and have no value. We're talking about trillions of dollars. It will be, in the end, trillions of dollars being absolutely wasted, and perhaps illegally. I would say certainly in many cases illegally, but perhaps illegally overall.
I think that it's more than possible that there are some kickback schemes going on here. So this is getting very, very juicy. Lots more to be discovered here, so watch this space. So before we move on, guys, don't forget to smash that like button if you would like to see this info go far and wide, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of the news. This video has been going viral on Twitter, detailing some of where the money is going. 7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. 20 million for new Sesame Street show in Iraq. 4.5 million plus to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. 1.5 million for art for inclusion of people with disabilities, 2 million for sex change and LGBT activism in Guatemala, 6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles, 2.1 million to help the BBC value the diversity of Libyan society, 10 million worth of USAID funded meals which went to Al-Qaeda linked terrorist group, and 25 million for Deloitte to promote green transportation in Georgia. Doesn't sound suspicious at all, and Caroline Levitt has some more details for us about other programs that seem extremely necessary.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
So the thing to wonder here, guys, is where exactly is this money going? I mean, when they're talking about all these arbitrary and obscure places that they're spending millions and millions of taxpayer dollars on, who exactly is receiving this money, and how can we account for it going to what it's allegedly meant to go to? Because to me, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, guys, this sounds like one big giant money laundering scheme. And perhaps as Elon and the team gets into the details, we are going to find out just that. Now, one of the biggest stories to come out of this from the Gateway Pundit: unveiled hypocrisy. Nasty bishop who chastised Trump's immigration policies revealed to have pocketed $53 million in taxpayer money. Bishop Marianne Boudet, who famously criticized Trump during inaugural prayer service, has been found to have pocketed a staggering $53 million in taxpayer funds through her organization, Episcopal Migration Ministries. And the article goes on. I'd recommend you guys go check it out at the Gateway Pundit if you'd want to. But this just goes to show that this woman is not a pastor at all. She is a subversive, and her job is to actually destroy the church from the inside out. She's being paid to take all of the principles of Christianity and actually invert them and spread this propaganda. And we see this throughout churches all around the United States. She is satanic, she is a subverter, and she's lining her pockets while she does it. And just to put an exclamation mark on that, check out some more of her ministry.
Well, let's be specific. I love the spectrum of life. I think you can be an adherent of the spectrum of life and still respect a woman's right to choose her in reproductive health, and including when to have an abortion in the early stages of pregnancy. So I'll just say that as a Christian, I believe that that's possible, and still hold to the full spectrum of life.
Why did you want to come out here and send
their message? It is a message of a call for justice, for swift justice for George Floyd, for systemic justice for all brown and black people who have been under the knee of this country in ways that we have witnessed time and again. This is wrong. And this rising up, this spontaneous uprising of people, mostly half my age or younger, they're the ones we should be listening to.
And they're angry at the president.
They're so angry.
They're angry at the president. So what is your message to President Trump today?
Well, I've given up speaking to President Trump. We need to replace President Trump. We need leadership that will lead us in the ways that this country deserves.
Thank you.
So anyways, moving on, let's talk about gain of function research. We all remember that thing that happened in 2019, 2020, 2021, when the whole world stopped because of the cough. And initially we were told that it was somebody eating a bat soup at a wet market, but soon we discovered that actually the lab leak theory was a lot more plausible. And I'm sure this is all just a massive coincidence, guys, nothing to see here. But it came out a few years ago, and now it's sort of coming to light a little bit more that the lab that was responsible for this leak was the same one that was being funded by the United States to do the exact gain of function research that led to this outbreak. Total coincidence, I'm sure, but let's have a listen now to USAID Administrator Samantha Powell being grilled by Rand Paul about this and trying to stonewall.
Ms. Powers, on April 26, 2023, you testified before this committee that USAID did not fund gain of function research. I'd like to give you a chance to correct the record. Is it still your position that USAID did not fund gain of function research?
We have no evidence that USAID has funded gain of function research, and we certainly haven't authorized gain of function research.
Well, I'll help you. Behind me, we'll list a paper from 2015. This is a paper produced by the Wuhan Institute of Virology and also by Dr. Barrick from UNC. In this paper, if you'll see the funding aspect, that's highlighted. It says USAID EPT predict funding from EcoHealth Alliance. So this paper was one where they took a virus, the SARS virus, the backbone of the SARS virus, and then took an S protein from an unknown virus they found in the wild and put them together. Are you aware that these experiments in the study were supported by USAID Predict and grant through EcoHealth Alliance?
As I said, USAID has not authorized gain-of-function research. This is the first time seeing this. We're happy to look into it.
This has been around since 2015. We've been over it numerous times. It's been in the public record. We've repeatedly said that, yes, USAID did fund gain-of-function research. Here's the evidence. But here's some comments from some different people about this study, because some will try to argue this still is not gain-of-function. Simon Wayne Hobson is a virologist at the Pasteur Institute in Paris. He points out that the researchers have created, with this research funded by USAID, a novel virus that grows remarkably well in human cells. If the virus escaped, nobody could predict the trajectory. Richard Ebright from Rutgers says, the only impact of this work is the creation in a lab of a new non-natural risk to humanity. So is your position that this study was not gain of function or that you didn't fund it? Which is your position?
We have had an awful lot of back and forth and provided thousands of pages of documents on this. This article, it looks like it's from 2015.
Right.
So we will have to look into the specific claims. But again, to put on the record,
it's a big
USAID
point.
Has not
But
and will not
that is your
authorize gain of function.
I know that's your position, but the record will show that you did.
Well,
so we know for a fact now that USAID spent over $50 million funding the EcoHealth Alliance, which was working with this Wuhan lab. And it's not the only time these questions have been fielded and avoided.
How much money went from USAID to the work at Wuhan and to their collaborator, Ralph Barrick, at the University of North Carolina, to collect and make coronaviruses that are weaponized, that are more deadly?
So I, first of all, reject the implicit accusation in that question, and I do not have at my finger. I do not have at my fingertips the particular details of USAID.
Are you saying for certain? Are you saying for certain that no USAID money went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
The question. Go ahead.
No, please tell me. Are you stating that no USAID money went?
I am happy to take questions from those in this audience. I'm happy to answer them. I appreciate that they treat every person in this room, including myself, respectfully. I called on you. I'm now calling on someone else. Go ahead.
Me respectfully, please tell me, what are you denying?
Go ahead,
What
please.
is your denial? It's a non-denial denial.
Glenn Beck also had something to say about this.
Everybody is scrutinizing EcoHealth Alliance, and they are looking at the government funding from one source, Fauci's NIH. But those funds, we have now found out, are merely a drop in the bucket compared to the total amount of U.S. tax dollars that have been given. And Peter Daszak himself has said that 80% of the funding comes from the government. So where else beside the NIH has money been coming from? Well, The Intercept is doing a great job, and they've obtained federal funding information from EcoHealth from 2004 to 2022. During that time, they received nearly $16 million from the Department of Health and Human Services, which includes grants from the NIH and NIAID. But I want to show you the largest sources of funding. Where are they from? By far, the largest donors are from USAID and the Department of Defense. Nearly $54 million from USAID. That is pretty tied up with the State Department. And $42 million from DOD. Why have we been focusing on HHS and Fauci? The HHS dollars at least can be explained. But USAID and the Pentagon?
So moving on, USAID also has given around $70 million to the World Economic Forum, which makes heaps and heaps of sense, guys. All of the richest people in the world, pretty much, get on their private jets to fly to Davos and meet every single year in Switzerland for this high-end meetup. These people seem like very, very worthy recipients of US aid, as Klaus Schwab tries to penetrate the cabinets of governments all around the world and use climate change as a Trojan horse for global communism. Now, there's also millions going into cloud seeding projects. Another one of those conspiracy theories that people are learning more and more about. And if you guys don't know what cloud seeding is, it's when they put chemicals in the clouds to control the weather. This happens very regularly in Dubai and in other places around the world, so it's definitely not a conspiracy theory. It's just a matter of to what extent they use it in America and other Western countries. Now, one of the most famous things that people get called right-wing conspiracy theorists and nuts for bringing up is, of course, Operation Mockingbird, which is a known CIA operation to actually have plants within the mainstream media and to basically control the narrative of the media being fed to the people.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Now, recently, we've learned that millions has been going to the New York Times. We've learned that 8.2 million went to Politico so that they could write hit pieces on Donald Trump, I guess. But let's have a listen to Mike Benz, who is a guy who's really on the ball with this sort of stuff, explaining just how Operation Mockingbird works and how USAID is behind it.
You have to understand, USAID is at the dead center. It occupies the center space between the State Department, the Pentagon, and the CIA. It's a switch player that serves as a plausibly deniable assistance agency to the rogue activities of those three federal agencies, and it represents essentially the sum consensus of the foreign policy establishment, the legacy foreign policy establishment that hated Trump with a passion, wanted to take him down because of his foreign policy views and because of his economic nationalism here at home. And what USAID declared doctrinally is that populism is an attack on democracy. They say this openly in USAID meetings. They say this openly in USAID documents. I published this a year and a half ago. The USAID disinformation primer published the first month of Biden's term in office, saying that the purpose of their disinformation programs was to eliminate populist subject matter expertise on the internet, because populist news sites undermine USAID programming by undermining public faith and confidence in democratic institutions. Because, don't you know, USAID spends billions of dollars to control the media every year.
So on the topic of subsidizing media, let's talk about foreign media now. There's more and more coming out about this at the moment, and it's actually very scary when you think about it. When you think about why this is happening, why the US government is subsidizing foreign media outlets, and also the scale to which this is happening. Let's have a listen to Ron Paul, who is one of the foremost experts in these matters and a guy who has pretty much spent his whole career going after this sort of corruption. Let's have a listen to him discussing this exact thing.
Headline on Breitbart is Trump freezes millions in USAID funds for foreign media. Foreign media, wow. Triggering globalist outrage. I did see a few liberals and Democrats. They're a little bit scared.
Yeah.
They're annoyed and mean and nasty too.
So the idea that the U.S. government is funding the foreign media, I mean, it really is, you talk about manufacturing consent. This is what the U.S. government does. It manufactures consent. It pays all the foreign media to say what it wants it to say, and then it tells Americans, look, the BBC's saying it, the Times is saying it, whatever. So go to the next one. There's actually some numbers on this, and this is from the article. American taxpayers are no longer subsidizing foreign media once funded by the U.S. Agency for International Development, prompting left-wing concern for the political impact on global journalism and democracy. Now look at some of these numbers, Dr. Paul. President Donald Trump put a 90-day hold on all USAID's foreign aid this week, which subsequently cut $268 million from media outlets in more than 30 countries according to the agency's 25 foreign budget reported by Reporters Without Borders. USAID's 2023 fact sheet taken offline due to the hold boasted that the agency supported 6,200 journalists, 707 news outlets, 279 media sector civil society organizations, i.e. NGOs. The Columbia Journalism Review reported. We've been talking since 2014 really about the coup, the Maidan coup in Ukraine. And whenever we point out the involvement of the US government in it, they say, oh, you're just using Russian talking points. Oh, you're on Putin's payroll. Well, it actually turns out that the other side is on Uncle Sam's payroll. You know, they're the ones that are on the payroll. They're the ones that have manufactured this misinformation, disinformation about what had happened. And not only there, but elsewhere, everywhere. I mean, Viktor Orban from Hungary, I talked about it yesterday, he put out another post on X Day talking about, you know, the cat's out of the bag now. All of the media in Hungary that was attacking the government is funded by the US government, you know? And it's, wait, we're paying for the BBC? And the question is how much? Go to the next clip. How much are we paying for the BBC? Well, that blue mark you see up there is USAID. The United States government is the second largest funder, after the UK government, the second largest funder of the BBC. This is incredible. We literally are the second largest donor to the BBC. No wonder they toe the line that Washington wants them to toe.
So very interesting indeed. And we do know that Washington is interfering with governments all around the world. However, it's a little bit less clear how they're doing it, the extent to which they're doing it, and who are actually the main targets of this, or who are the targets in general. But the rabbit hole definitely gets deeper with this one. Let's have a little listen to a few minutes from Timcast recently.
The simple argument that people have made is that what USAID does is fund insurgent groups, activist groups in various countries.
Yeah.
So, have you guys ever heard about the Tales of an Economic Hitman? What is it? Tales of from an Economic Hitman? Famous story. Yeah. You can watch the interview or read the book. Basically, this guy says what we would do is we go to a country and we say, hey, we're going to give you international aid. We're going to give you development. We're going to put billions of dollars into your infrastructure, roads, stores. We're going to bring in McDonald's. We're going to bring in, Starbucks, whatever. Not specifically those, but that's, If the country said no, they would then say, okay, you want to play it the hard way, we'll play it the hard way. They would then try to fund opposition politicians to change or overthrow the government. If that did not work, invasion or assassination. Or I'm sorry, if what was it? Yeah, if that didn't work, they would try to take the politician out in one way or another, and then it would ultimately lead to invasion. So that's like Iraq, Saddam Hussein, and Libya with Gaddafi. I'm not saying that's true. That's what's been alleged.
I think it's true because
yeah.
We would have, and again, this was when I was at the State Department, but just being in the foreign aid agencies. So we would have people coming to our office that would allege that. Especially, I remember one guy from Macedonia. He would come in. I can't remember where he was in their government, but he was some elected official. And he's like, please stop your government.
Whoa.
Please stop your government from trying to overthrow ours. Please. I beg of you. And unfortunately, I don't know exactly what happened because we were so overwhelmed. And like I said, there was no top cover. We had Tillerson, who was fired pretty early, and then Pompeo, who was useless. So, we were unable to really do anything. But yes,
you saw this man say this?
Oh yeah, he came into our office. And I can't remember his name, but
is this like classified stuff? It sounds like you're in trouble.
No, it's not classified. But because it's all public. I mean, it's all tax dollars.
So that's a first-hand account right there. And I mean, it shouldn't come as a surprise that these agencies are in no small way responsible for funding revolutions in other countries and color revolutions and foreign coups and overthrowing governments that they don't like. Now, the most obvious example of this that comes to mind is Ukraine. And I've showed this a few times on the channel, but you guys will remember the following clip that we're about to play, which is Biden basically just boasting about how he withheld $1 billion in USAID. And the reason? Well, for his own interests. He wanted them to fire a prosecutor that was investigating Burisma, who was the company that hired Joe Biden's son, Hunter, who is obviously an oil and gas expert.
They made, I'll give you one concrete example. I was, not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
So that is just blatant corruption. That is the weaponization of a US government department for your own financial gain. We also know that the Maidan coup was funded in no small part by Victoria Nuland through USAID. And don't take it from me, have a listen to her say it herself.
Since Ukraine's independence in 1991, the United States has supported Ukrainians as they build democratic skills and institutions, as they promote civic participation and good governance, all of which are preconditions for Ukraine to achieve its European aspirations. We've invested over $5 billion to assist Ukraine in these and other goals that will ensure a secure and prosperous and democratic Ukraine.
And now let's listen to RFK Jr. speaking to Tucker Carlson about just this, and how this is a CIA front that used $5 billion of US taxpayer money in 2014 to install a pro-Western government in Ukraine.
There are riots it's called the Maidan Rebellion in Ukraine, which we're not told that we are financing those riots. The newspapers never told us, our government never told us. USAID, which is a CIA front, put $5 billion into funding those riots. Those riots lead to a coup d'etat against the first democratically elected government of the Ukraine. It was a government that refused to choose sides and to say, we're going to be on the side of the West. So we wanted them out. A month before that government is overthrown, Victoria Nuland, who's the part of the centerpiece of the neocon ideology and who is now a high-level official in the State Department, has a secret call with the U.S. ambassador, which is tape recorded and is now public, which anybody can go and look up, where she is picking the new cabinet for the Ukraine, which is which is a U.S. Western cabinet. So they're picking the new government a month before the old government is overthrown.
Is that how democracy? Is that democracy when Victoria Nuland picks her government?
Well, that's the point. Is USAID doesn't really do, and the CIA don't do democracy. The CIA has overthrown, I think, 83 governments between 1947 and 1997. That's a third of the governments on Earth, and most of them were democracies.
Okay, so guys, don't listen to me or RFK or any of the stats and facts. Listen to Piers Morgan, who tells you that the war started when Putin, big mean dictator Putin, went into Ukraine. Here's a chart showing which countries are receiving the most funding from USAID, and what do you know? Ukraine is the leader by some way. Now, guys, for all of the major things that we're learning here and all of the very important aspects of what is happening with this story, the greatest thing to come out of it by far was this.
Yes, so this is a 19-year-old high school graduate who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online, so that would be one way that we could refer to him. He is now working at Musk's behest inside Doge, and we looked into his background. And so we found You know, several notable things, Aaron, one of which is that this individual has founded multiple companies, including one with another unfortunate name, Tesla.Sexy LLC, which he established in 2021. He would have been around 16 years old. Now, this LLC controls dozens of web domains.
Now, I can't believe that they've doxed Big Balls like this. Big Balls is a decent man. He is a gentleman and a scholar, and he's a patriot who's trying to do the best thing for his country. And now what do we see? We see the legacy media with a shot below the belt, trying to get Big Balls bounced out of his job. I stand with Big Balls. And guys, if you stand with Big Balls as well, I want you to put in the comments today, hashtag I stand with Big Balls. But seriously, guys, do these people not understand how the internet works? They think that they're revealing something that's going to look bad for Elon Musk and Doge, but now they have created one of the greatest memes of the year that's honestly going to be hard to surpass. Now, this young man has made many people on TV say Big Balls, so no matter what happens, he wins.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls! Big Balls, who work for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online.
Big Balls here that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned Big Balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about Big Balls in charge of American air traffic control?
And here's some actual footage that was captured of Big Balls coming into work the day after this scandal.
Buffalo soldier in the heart of America, stolen from Africa, brought into America. She was fighting on your rival.
So hashtag I stand with Big Balls in the comments, guys. But last thing we will go through is some of the reactions. One of the really interesting things that has come out of this is watching the various people that are kind of freaking out about these revelations. What exactly is so scary about doing an audit of government spending where all the taxpayer dollars go? Isn't that something that you'd want to know? Well, Chuck Schumer doesn't seem too thrilled about it.
Every one of the 47 Democratic senators is going to vote against that horrible, dangerous man, Russell Vogt, on Wednesday. And we cannot allow Elon Musk and a small group of people to secretly, behind closed doors, take away our privacy, take away our dollars, take away everything we have. We are going to fight this fight. I am going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win.
Can't let them take away your dollars, hey Chuck? Bit of a slip there maybe. AOC is never far away.
This dude is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen or witnessed. Which, you know, you can probably even glean that from watching these people on TV. Anyways, all of that is to say is that they don't do their homework. Clearly, like, they're putting 19-year-olds in at the Treasury. This dude is not smart. And the danger in the lack of intelligence and the lack of expertise that Elon has. I mean, this guy is one of the most morally vacant, but also just least knowledgeable about these systems that we really know of. But the point is that what that means is that they're going to hit a button inevitably. They are going to hit a button and things can go sideways.
So it always makes me feel dumber when I watch dumb people call smart people dumb. And that one definitely made me lose brain cells. So guys, going to keep on top of this story and cover it as it goes. Fascinating stuff happening in Trump's first few weeks in office. I mean, we expected him to come out swinging, but we didn't expect this. So very, very entertaining stuff. If you guys like the video, don't forget to smash that like button. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you're welcome to do so. And if you would like to watch another video right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.